A few days ago, I just completed a Joker arc, and the Joker arc lasted about a week, and it was an interesting time, I suppose, but it ended a few days ago when I was playing tennis, and I no longer felt like being in that mode. I just decided to enjoy the tennis, and I did. It went better than I expected. There was a decent amount of smurfing and a decent amount of actual challenge, the way it should be. So, the Joker arc concluded on that day, and but another arc quickly began, which is the arc that I am currently in right now, and that is an existentialism arc. So, as you may notice by the title of the video, the man. Oh, wait, no, there's no man. I have peaked in every activity. The video title is referring to me. Well, every worthwhile activity. Not every activity that exists on the planet Earth, obviously, because that would probably not even be possible, or if it were, then definitely does not apply to me. But in every worthwhile activity that I enjoy doing, I have peaked. So there is now no point for me in continuing such activities, for I've already reached the pinnacle. And when you reach the pinnacle of something, there is no longer the element of striving to get better that makes the things worth doing. Of course, you can always get better, but at a certain point, when you become so good at it, or or rather, you reached your desired state, your desired goal in said activity, you may not see a reason to keep going. Now, this will not apply to everyone. Some people, they want to be the best that they can be, and that is perfectly fine. That is a great mentality. But there are also some individuals, such as myself, whereas when we reach a certain point, we kind of see the futility in continuing the activities because they end up all being the same thing. And you no longer have very much to strive for. And there's something about me that I have not really talked about that much, or maybe I have, but I don't remember all the things I talked about, so I'm going to say it again. And that is that I have extremely limited interests. I'm seldom interested by anything at all. Very few things entertain me. I almost never feel excited about doing something. I may look forward to doing something, but actually feeling thrilled and excited about it is rather rare for me. And as you may have guessed, consequently, I am an extremely boring person. So much so that when I am invited to activities, many times I do not particularly enjoy them, but sometimes I would force myself to go just for the sake of not having to refuse every single activity. Or else, if I only did things that I specifically knew I already liked, then I would never do anything. So I simply forced myself to go to some things. And many times they still were not very fun. And recently, I have not entirely stopped, but been felt, I guess, sort of felt less bad about not wanting to go to things, because this is a bit of a separate topic, but when you don't go to things, then people just call you antisocial and all that. And it's like, oh, you're just a hermit, you're staying at home, you don't want to spend time with people. So there's all that. So then, because people say that, then you're like, okay, so I'll go to this thing. Even though I don't really want to, because I don't really enjoy the activity that is being participated in. And then you say that or something, and then it'll be like, oh, so you should be making a decision based on what you want to do, not what anyone else wants you to do. So basically, either way, someone's always going to be criticizing you. You either don't go and you're being antisocial, or you go but you don't really want to, so you're just going to things and you're not making your own decisions because you're just doing something because of some other reason, not because you really want to do it. So, since I've been told to make my own decisions, sometimes I'll just not want to go to anything or most of the things that people offer. So I won't go, but anyway, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't go. But anyway, that's not really the point. The point is that you probably know, you understand by now. I have very few interests. And this is a fact about me that I cannot change. I am born like this. I am born so that very few things happen to interest me. I cannot make something interest me, even though some people might claim that, but I do not want to get into a lengthy discussion. For now, just assume that I have very few interests, and currently that is a fact. And I do not really have too much confidence that I'm able to change that. That just seems to be sort of an immutable, inherent part of my nature, my essential nature. That I am simply not interested in things. That is how my character is, and I do not seem to be able to change that. Of course, people go through development arcs and all that, so I will not rule out the possibility of change because anything can happen. I don't like saying stuff like I will never ever do this. That will never happen because I can never know for sure. I'm not a time traveler. I'm not a seer, so we can never know for sure what happens in the future, even though you may feel a certain way about something now that might prompt you to say, I will never do this in a few years. You might not feel that way anymore, so you can change your mind because that's how people are. So I don't like to always say with absolute certainty, I will never do this. Even though I've probably said that about a few things, but I'm going to sort of retcon that and say, yeah, I just want to say anything is possible. So I don't want to say that I'm totally sure that I will never do certain things. But anyway, the point of this video was not to get into discussion about the fact that I have few interests and if it can change and whatnot, but rather just assume for this video right now that what I said is true at the current moment. I have very few interests. Now, like the title of the video says, I've peaked in every worthwhile activity. And worthwhile is obviously a bit of a subjective term. Let's consider worthwhile activities to be the interests of mine that I'm referring to here. Let's consider those things to be worthwhile activities. So, I've peaked in all of them, guys. I've peaked in all of them. And when I have peaked at something, I've kind of already explained this a few minutes ago, but I don't really see much point in continuing. At least I'm not as passionate about getting better or anything as I was before I peaked or reached my desired state. Whether or not it's peaked, that can be discussed. But let's just talk about a few activities specifically. So I've mentioned this before probably, but the two sports that I can play are tennis and table tennis. And I've peaked in both of them. Like several people watching this, of course, will not know me in real life. So they might think, oh, the guy who gasses himself up, he's never actually really good. But I am really good. I am not like one of those people who says they're really good but doesn't even know how to play. Just played about 2 times in their life and thinks that They're so good just because of whatever, just because they happen to get a few shots in and don't even know the actual rules of the game. I can assure you I've been playing for more than 2 times, and I am really good. And I am going off statistics here. I would not be saying that I am really good. I would not, looking at my playstyle alone or my intuitive feelings, I would not be saying that I am really good. Because judging from the way that I play, I think, oh, I should lose to people. But then the way it happens is that I win almost every time I play at both of these sports. So I must be pretty good to do that, unless my competition is absolutely horrible. But if we're talking about a span of several years, playing a ton of different people and winning the majority of the time, much more than losing, I must be pretty good if we look at that statistically. And the people who do know me in real life, they know that I am not lying. I am very good at these sports, even though some people may deny it. The very people who have not even gotten close to challenging me in these sports. So they do not really know what they're talking about. And they are the real trash talkers. I trash talk, but I back it up with my results. Other people trash talk, yet they do not even know the basic rules of the game. But anyway, it does not really matter so much if you believe me or not. All that matters is, for the purposes of this video, just assume that I am that good as I say. I'm not so good in the sense that I am a professional player, of course, or anything like that. But just assume that I am better than most people. I have won more than I have lost. And just assume that I am at a level where most of the time I win against my competitors fairly easily in both of these sports. So with that being said, if 90% of the time when I set out to play these sports, I will win without even having to use 50% of my true potential, then why should I decide to play these sports further? There is no longer any point. The entire point of competition is to have a fierce battle with your competitors, where you can push each other to the limits and you can both improve each other at the same time, while not being sure of the outcome, while fighting through tough moments, using your mental strength in combination with your technique and experience, what you have learned over the years, to achieve victory or possibly defeat. But in defeat, you learn to help with future victories because it gives you experience. But I cannot experience what I have just described to you if 90% of the time I step onto the court, I step in front of the table, I know that I do not even have to try my hardest against almost all of my opponents to win. Why should I continue playing these sports if I am not challenged by almost anyone? And you could say, oh, simply find better people to challenge you. But that is not very easy because no one plays tennis. People just play pickleball now. It is extremely difficult to find someone who can challenge you and is close to your level in both of these sports. People who play them should know this. So that is not an option. Forget that for now. Moving on to another activity, which people who follow my channel should know very well. Papa's Cheeseria. I, of course, have peaked in this game. That cannot be disputed. There is not a single person on planet Earth who has progressed farther in the game than I have. In fact, I recently reached day 1000 in the game. Do you know that, guys? I reached day 1000. Specifically, the last day I played was about day 1014. 1014. Let that sink in. Most people do not even reach day 100. My rank was rank 962, 62, 63, something like that. I didn't upload this. I didn't upload it. But you believe me, because if you look at the last Papa Cheeseria video that I have uploaded, it is not too far off. So of course it is very reasonable to think that I could have leveled up in the time between then and now, which I have. But I did not upload that. And that is partially because there is no need to do it. 1000 is an arbitrary number. YouTube will probably also just demonetize me for anything that I decide to put up, because I'm just a bot and everything comes from a content farm, even my original content, but that is a separate discussion. But who cares? Why should I upload it? Why should I upload day 1000 Papa's Cheeseria? So YouTube can take me down again because it looks the same as all the other Papa's Cheeseria videos. Because it is the same. There is nothing else to do in the game. I have peaked in it. So there is no discussion there. I do not even need to explain that I've peaked in Papa's Cheeseria. You all know this. And now, we'll talk about another activity that I enjoy doing, or at least formerly enjoyed doing, and that is writing, more specifically, journaling. So, some people know this, some people do not know this, but I actually published a book. Do you know that, guys? I published a book. Like, I actually published a book. It can be bought. There's a physical copy. I have a physical copy of my book. And I'm not going to disclose the name of the book title here, because there's several people who I don't know who exactly is watching this, and I might not want them to access the book yet or ever. So I'm not going to disclose the book title here. No, but just believe me that I have published a book. I published it last year. So, no one cared about my book, unsurprisingly. Okay, I will not say no one. There are a few people, of course, who expressed interest, but I am saying the majority. And that is to be expected, of course. And I did not even really advertise the book, so of course, how are people going to care about something that they don't know about? Right, I'm not blaming people for that. That is my fault or no one's fault. Let's say it's my fault because I didn't advertise the book. And also the book is trash. Like, I cannot blame anyone for not caring about it. But anyway, I have published a book. What do I do now? There's nothing else to do. The book is not of a quality where it will garner any significant degree of popularity. So, now that I've published a book, that was my goal for such a long time. I wanted to publish a book. And then I did it. And then there was nothing else to be done. It was just there to sit there, to be read by very few people, and for no one else to care about it. So, that's it. And here, I'm going to talk a lot more about writing. So, prepare yourself for this. So, people that know me may know that I have written a great deal. Of course, like I said, the book. And I am even sometimes kind of known for my writing, specifically my journaling, because that's pretty much all I do. Journaling, or I used to write letters to people. I don't do that as much anymore. But I was sort of known for that, / am known for that, and journaling. Now I'm going to tell you something about writing, about my writing and my journaling. So, for me, I've not really talked about this before, but I'm going to explain something about writing from my perspective. So, for me, writing has two purposes. The first purpose is to make myself feel better about situations. And people who have journaled can understand what I mean by this. Because why do people journal? Do they journal because they just like writing about what happened? Yes, maybe. Maybe they do. That is a perfectly valid reason. However, another perfectly valid, and I would assume common reason that people journal is because they want to sort of dissect situations, dissect their feelings. And when you have your feelings laid out in coherent thoughts, rather than everything being jumbled up around in your mind, it is sometimes easier to reflect on them. And then you can point out the areas what you did wrong or something, or you can understand better why you're feeling upset. You write things out so that you know, you can see more clearly what happened with everything. You can pinpoint areas where you should improve, or pinpoint areas better understand your reaction to things and stuff like that. So journaling is to, we hear the phrase write about your feelings. And you write about your feelings. You can just write because you want to, of course. But it also has a use if you choose to use it in that way. You write about your feelings to make yourself feel better about the situation by understanding the situation more, which also allows you to improve your attitude for future situations and for that situation as well. So that was a major purpose that journaling had for me, as I'm assuming it does for several people as well. I journaled so that I could feel better about situations that happened, feel better about how I was feeling. All right? So that is the first purpose that I had for journaling. The second purpose, journaling, writing, whatever. For me, writing is just journaling. I know there other writing exists, but all I do is essentially journaling. Or in some format. Close enough. Whatever. The second purpose of writing, for me, because I said for me, writing has two purposes. I explained the first one. Now the second one is to entertain other people. Because I would like to write something. A lot of times when writing, I would think, I'd be writing something, or I would be thinking about writing something, and I would say, what's the point of writing this? If only I am going to see it, then why should it matter at all? I want to show it to other people, which I have done in the past, several years ago, with much shorter things than an entire book, of course. Now I have written a book, which few people will see and have seen. But a major purpose, the second purpose of writing for me was to entertain other people, because I would think a lot of my writing to be sort of pointless if I were the only one seeing it. Because this can also sort of be simplified in a sense if you say that the first purpose of writing is for myself. The second purpose of writing is for other people. So if I'm writing and it is only for myself, right now, sometimes I would consider things that I wrote down to be pointless, because I would not show it to anyone, so it would not be massively entertaining to myself, because I already know what happened to me, and I'm writing down something in relation to what happened to me, but I already know that, so that's not going to be massively entertaining for me to see that written down. But to someone else who doesn't know what happened and might be interested to see what happened and my thoughts on it, that could be more interesting, because they would not know about it at all, or at least not know exactly what I thought about it. But like I said, writing has two purposes. Writing for me has two purposes. To make myself feel better about situations, or to entertain people. Now, I have maximized the potential of the first purpose. I have optimized it because I have created a logical formulation that any situation at all, any situation, can be plugged into. And after plugging into this logical formulation, you will then be able to dissect your feelings according to its steps. And I wrote a treatise about committing mistakes and people's feelings about them. And then I finished that. And then I finished a logical formulation for analyzing situations. So if I'm ever feeling bad about anything, no matter how insignificant it may be, I can plug it in to this formulation and I will be able to dissect if my feelings make sense or not. And I will be able to dissect the situation using a form of logic, which will then make me feel better about it. In theory, at least, make me feel better about it because I will understand what I should do in the future, or if I want to do something rather, and if not, the fact that my feelings of being upset are wasted. So, now that I've created this formulation, that's it. Now that I created this formulation for analyzing my feelings about situations so that I could feel better about them. However, now that I know that this formulation exists, I have not needed to use it a single time. Because the purpose of creating the formulation was to make myself feel better about situations. However, the fact that the formulation exists in and of itself already makes me feel better about the situations. So now that it has been constructed, there is no longer any need to use it because the purpose that it would serve in being used has been fulfilled in its mere existence. Now, of course, it could still be used, and perhaps I could feel slightly better about specific situations. Of course, that is how it was designed. But since I made it, the situations that I would use for it stopped bothering me as much. Not completely, of course. That is very difficult to happen, but since I made it, I started caring less about the things that I would even use it for. Because it's sort of like I already know in my head the solution to any situation that I'm feeling. And I know full well that all I have to do is plug it in here. And then theoretically it will be solved. I'm not saying it will be solved completely. No, that is very difficult for any situation at all. And people have not, I'm not so sure people have figured out a way to completely sort of get over the situation. Well, figured out a concrete way. Of course, it has been done, but there is not like some kind of magical thing where anytime you're feeling bad about something, you do this and then boom, you're completely done feeling bad in any capacity about that situation. Like, there's no consistent way for that to happen. Even if that does happen to some people sometimes, like, oh, when I'm feeling bad, I just have to watch this video and then I feel better. Okay, you might feel better for the time being, but in 5 days something happens, you start thinking about the thing again. So it was never resolved completely because you didn't forget about the thing entirely, right? And that thing might still upset you later on, even if it's just a tiny bit. But anyway, now that I know that this solution exists, where all I have to do to make myself feel better about a situation is plug it into this formulation, I don't need to use it anymore. Because just knowing that fact is enough to make me feel better about the situations themselves. Just knowing that a solution exists and I have solved it already. And that if I'm feeling bad about something, I know to solve it exactly what I would have to do. But I don't care anymore. Because just knowing that already makes me feel better about it. Even if I don't recognize that consciously every time. So, I have peaked in this purpose for writing. The first purpose for writing. Making myself feel better. I've peaked in it. I've optimized it. I no longer need to use the optimized form of my logical template to make myself feel better just because it exists. It existing is enough. I haven't felt like I really needed to use it. So the first purpose that I had for writing is completely extinguished. Which leaves us, of course, with the second purpose, which was to entertain people. Now, I cannot do this. The only thing that I would write that would be entertaining to people and that I would want to write, because a part of me does want to write this, it would be an autobiography. Or it would be something autobiographical, or at least something to do with my own feelings and experiences, likely in relation to other people. But I can't do this because the only way that I could do this would be to expose people I know. And I don't know how many people would be very happy with a bunch of stuff about them being in a published autobiography. And of course, people said, change the names. Yeah, of course, you didn't think I didn't think of that. But it is still going to be obvious to people who know the people and the person who is being referenced that they are being referenced if they were to read it, no matter what the name changes, because they have lived the experiences themselves. So they will remember it and say, this is clearly me, right? So the name change is not a solution. So, with that said, there is no way I can write an autobiography without just exposing everyone. So, as I have explained with these three examples, there could possibly be a couple more. But like I said, I have very few interests. And these are the activities that I had found most worthwhile, at least recently. Papachizeria. Okay, yeah, well, with the amount of time I spent on it in the last couple of years, I have to say that. But anyway, these are examples. I have peaked in all of them. I've explained how I've peaked in all of them. So, what more is there for me to do in life? There is nothing. That is why I am in existentialism arc right now, because there's nothing else for me to do in life. I've just peaked in every worthwhile activity. Now what do I do? And the one especially is writing, because I know what I would want to write. I would want to write an autobiography. But what good is that if I can't share it with everyone? It's no good at all. So, that's pretty much the video. Yeah. I just don't really know what is left for me to do. So, that's about it. See ya.